buttoned up on the way there.
Okay.
Appreciate working with Dave.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say is, that's an ambitious project to take on 4 of these sites to be completed all in 1 year. And if any site is to be uncompleted at the end of the year, it'll be taxed and valued at a percentage of completion, so that if it's halfway done, it'll have 50% taxation.
Based on calendar year.
Hmm?
Based on calendar year.
It's from January 1 to January 1, yes.
All right, so entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept all 4 of these segmented pilot programs. That's good. Is that what you need?
Yeah, I'll second the motion. Motion's been made and seconded to accept all 4, that be Rock Garden Solar LLC, Fort Rock Solar 4 LLC, Fort Rock Solar 1 LLC, and Alkali Solar LLC. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Straightforward.
Very much.
Well, thank Dave and the process that he's put together to be able to make it flow through the Board of Commissioners much faster than the old days. So thank you, Dave, for that process.
We appreciate it and appreciate the opportunity to do business with the
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. So Melanie, friends of the library update is just whenever they show up. It was the first thing on our non-timed agenda, so.
She was supposed to be here at 9.
Okay,
I haven't heard
I
anything
got
from
to
her,
Todd.
but,
I'm not sure when that's
so.
all right, so we'll continue, move on down. Mr. Gregory, more solar discussion.
More solar.
This is on the,
There's a couple of items.
the first thing I have is, well, let's go reverse of what's on the agenda. Let's go with the Garrett Solar easement right away agreement first.
I was gonna recommend
Let's go with that one first.
it. For the record, Todd Gregory, City of Renewables. Lori found out I was coming down there, so she stacked me up with this easement stuff, so I think it's pretty straightforward. These easements and right-of-ways for both Garrett and the airport, which you guys discussed last month at your meeting. And I think there were just a couple of cleanup items that you sent us home to kind of do with some homework. The agreement, the newest agreements, which I think were sent to you last week? Yeah, have been sent to you. The issues that you wanted us to look at were to make it more clear about exclusive use and then the non-interference with the planned runway extension.
Correct.
So we've addressed those issues, section. Look here, looking at the easement.
So, back to the runway, Tom Anders is here.
Yes.
And it does vary that line deeper and addresses that. I need to.
Yeah, and we've been, we need to get the plans. Our general contractor has asked for the plans for the extended runway, just so we know exactly how deep we need to go with that line. But just pending those plans, I mean, it's not gonna be any problem to get it deep enough to not interfere.
So our plan would be, our master plan would show that,
Yeah.
correct, Tom?
And Lori should have gotten that from me.
Yeah, she said she hadn't got it yet for you or Dave, so.
I'll resend it, there should have been.
Okay, yeah, so I'll send that over and then, but by all accounts, it's not gonna be any big deal.
No, it's good for both parties to be done correct.
Yeah, right. And I was hoping nothing happened underneath the runway with the line. So that was addressed. The exclusiveness of the easement is is more spelled out.
What's
Section
number?
5, I'm looking at the Garrett easement agreement, transmission facility easement agreement. Section 5, exclusiveness of the agreement, of the easement. So basically, anybody else can use the easement as long as they're not putting a line underground crossing our line. So our line's gotta be about, I think, 6 feet underground. If somebody else were to develop something there and they need to put power lines in there, they need to cross it, they have to go above ground. Because a lot of the engineering about where the line goes underground, it's about soil resistivity and heat and different things like that, so you can't have interference between the line and the top of the ground. So, but with that said, you could walk on it, drive on it, go overhead with it, you know, do pretty much whatever you want on that easement. You just can't put a line underground that goes across. Now, you can put one in the trench next to it, that'd be fine, but,
So that begs the question, if we extend that runway and we have runway lights and there's power running down those runway lights that would cross that easement, would that be a problem?
I don't think that, we're more worried about transmission lines.
Well, it's okay to say we're more worried about it. We don't want to jeopardize or hold us up from being able to put any,
Nothing's gonna interfere with that. Those runway lights are gonna be,
they're pretty low amount.
yeah, they're very low,
Yeah.
and they're very low voltage, and,
So the minutes will reflect that extension of the runway and power for the.
Yeah, we're not gonna
runway
interfere with
will
the
not be a
runway.
problem.
what we're worried about actually is over on, we're not worried about it, but where we would most likely see this come up is over on Denise's property, where you have the county right away there. We're gonna put it under line. Well, he's got other developers looking at that site. So, the only thing that would restrict them with their lines would be they can't go underground for that power line.
Okay.
So,
So my next question is we get past the runway, where you're going across the county road there, in our master plan, that's where all of our development is supposed to go on over there, and there will be power to that over there. Is that a problem?
well, on that, we plan on boring so deep across the road there.
Well, not on the road itself, on the airport property, and I can't remember exactly where it crosses over there. That our master plan has the whole extension of hangars and everything developing down.
Well, I mean,
That shouldn't be a problem
It's
where
not
it's
a
at,
problem.
because the power comes in over where the new hangar's already in place, and where they'll be boring is down beyond,
Beyond it,
Yeah, that's
it'll be further north.
north by probably 1,000 feet,
yeah,
Okay.
say about a quarter mile.
yeah.
Okay,
And, but even if it were in the area, it would be just something that we would build into, you know, your plan, you know. You guys may want to tie into that line, you know, down the road, if you're going to do some development down there in that area, so.
are you offering free energy off of the solar farm? We'll take it.
I wish, well, I wish it did work that way sometimes.
Yeah, it's in the notes.
He wrote it in the notes, so it must be law. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I wasn't aware that you didn't want to be crossing that line as far as other power sources. No way do we want this to hamper our master plan, our development out there, so that's my concern.
My whole emphasis last time was if somebody else needed to co-locate or cross over, we got it addressed.
Thank you. So those were the, so I brought, we sent those agreements over. I was hoping to get those signed up and.
Okay, so one of the other questions, looking back at my notes, and I haven't found it. What's the size of this easement?
Size of the easement is,
During construction, you have to have a fairly good working path, but after it's constructed, then usually your easements are down pretty narrow.
I think, I wanna say it's a 30 foot.
I apologize, I'm not finding.
30 foot,
Is it?
yeah. Some first page.
30-foot width.
30 foot wide strip of road. And then we are going to,
I guess we need to discuss why you need 30 feet.
well, there has to be certain space between, well, there has to be certain space for the guys to work. Then there has to be space, we're talking about 3 trenches. So there has to be space between the trenches. So,
Okay.
yeah, and we are gonna put it, to the far side of the county right of way. So, somebody else needs to use the right of way in the future, we can use the other half of the right of way.
So, and this is just on airport property, or is this inclusive on the non-constructed roads?
Yes,
And it's 30 feet on those also?
yes.
And that seems way out of ordinary. If we ever develop those roads, to have a 30-foot easement in your road.
I think that's pretty typical. If we go to do an easement on county road, it's a 30 foot easement.
A lot of places, we don't have 30 feet of ditch.
Yeah. Well, it's 30 feet from, 30 feet from the middle
Yeah,
of the
center
road.
road.
So you have ownership, you owe us money for paving those roads, sir.
Yeah, you've been to the.
For whatever it's worth, as a solar guy, 30 feet is about as narrow as you can go on stuff like that for a variety.
Yeah, across the airport property, I'm sort of, but the roads is where I'm struggling with. I didn't realize that. I honestly didn't.
Yeah, I believe if you go back and look, we got a 30-foot easement on the line that goes north and south into the Black Cat project as well, on that off of Stock driveway.
Mhm.
So it's pretty standard.
Okay.
And the exclusive use is addressed in each of these.
Well, I think, I know it's, where I cited it was in the easement agreement. The other ones are right-of-way
Yeah, gotcha.
agreement, so I think you wanted it in
Easement.
the Garrett easement agreement was where it was called for me to talk about it. I'm
Yes.
not sure if,
You're right.
yeah. We are, just to give you a little update on the projects, they are ready to go. We're ready to build these lines probably next month. So, ready to go with it. We've exercised the option on the easements, the easements from across Morgan. And he's ready for us to come out and build. We're just waiting for the ground to dry up a little bit over across the Denise property. He's been, he just stopped irrigating. So we're anxious to get it going.
All right, well, we had quite in-depth conversation, and it looks as if all the questions have been answered. Working with legal counsel, also legal counsel reviewed,
Yes.
and then
exclusive.
So, entertain a motion on the Garrett Solar right-of-way easement agreement.
I'll move that we accept the right-of-way easement agreement relating to Garrett Solar, as given here.
I'll second the motion. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the right-of-way easement agreement between Lake County. The project is the Garrett Solar project. As legal counsel said, there should be a monetary value, even though we didn't see, we're not trying to make money off this, but,
We'll put it in $10.
yeah, to make sure that it is legal and binding, so that has been put in. Thank you for that.
This is $10 one time up front.
Now, I think we can spread it out.
Yeah, that's $10 per day.
Or per hour.
Yeah, per hour. Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. That took care of the right-of-way easement agreement on Garrett. Thank you. It's been quite a bit of work getting to there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
which one do you want to tackle
I
next?
think, we'll come look at the agenda, what do we have on here? Do we have the right-of-way easement agreement for airports?
Okay,
I think you guys have the same.
It's in the
same,
packet.
same questions.
Yeah.
Things have been put into it after lengthy discussion, shows the same amount for the cost, for that this is an easement, not a right-of-way. So was there any particulars that you need to make us aware of that you guys are requesting? And Commissioner, do you have any questions? I don't think you was at the last meeting. I know you have reviewed things and stuff.
Not one of the meetings that we covered this specifically.
Okay, so maybe you were at that one. I can't remember. It's been a while ago.
But it has all been reviewed by you, Tom?
Yeah.
You acquainted with them all, and the council have reviewed. I'm good.
Do you want to tackle the Garrett easement agreement at the same time?
The transmission one?
We already done the Garrett
Well, we did
right away.
Yeah.
well, we did the right-of-way easement agreement,
We haven't done the transmission.
the transmission facilities easement agreement.
Yeah, we have.
Well, let's go ahead and get the right-of-way easement agreement for Airport Solar,
Okay.
since it's similar to the other ones we just did.
Is there any, I guess I was waiting, if you
Oh,
had,
no,
if you had anything, Todd, I
No,
apologize.
no, I don't have anything, again, it was just answering the questions that you guys had, and addressing the issues that you had.
Tom's reviewed, he was at the last meeting, him and Dave both, questions have been answered.
I'm good with it.
All right. I'll make a motion to accept the right-of-way easement agreement, Airport Solar as presented.
Sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next one is transmission facilities easement agreement, Garrett Solar.
Same thing.
Same thing.
And this is one that has the exclusiveness of the easement that we discussed earlier.
Correct.
And your question is,
The concern I had has been addressed.
okay, Entertain a motion?
I move that we accept the transmission facility easement agreement with Garrett Solar as written.
I'll second the motion. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the transmission facilities easement agreement, Garrett Solar. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, Mr. Gregory, those projects we'll start work on those this fall.
As soon as the ground is dry enough, let's get out there. We'd be out there, this week would have been perfect, but we haven't stopped irrigating it, so it's a little wet.
So when does that trigger your other agreement with us, the payment coming to the airport?
It's a good question, I have to look at the agreement.
I'm sure that Tom's looking for money for his budget.
Sure, yeah. The actual.
We'll have to look at that.
Yeah, we'll have to look at it.
Yeah.
I think the actual physically breaking ground and building the project will be soon as dry enough this spring. So we're gonna build, airport and Garrett together.
So we'll need to review that, because in the spring, we start our budgeting process, and that will have possibly a positive impact on the airport budget. So, all right. So now we'll move back up to the Oregon Strategic Investment Program, and walked in just in time.
So, I was looking at my calendar, and pretty interesting. 10 years ago in October, that we had our first meeting with county commissioners to talk about solar. I think that you were there, and we were talking about at the time, the largest solar project in the Pacific Northwest to be built up in North Lake County, a 5 megawatt project. And I just thought it was a little interesting that here we are 10 years later, again, talking about the biggest solar project in the Pacific Northwest in North Lake County, and happens to be, 400 megawatt project. So we commend the county and kind of making that trip with us, along with us. And
That was back in 2009, and we had some interesting comments.
yeah, well, I think we've all learned a lot in the last 10 years, right? So I just want to throw that out there. That, I think we've all come a long way since then, and knowing that we're going to have some new commissioners probably, coming up soon. It's been a good ride.
With that, we have a commissioner-elect in the back room, Mark Albertson. Raise your hand, Mark, so people know.
Yeah.
He'll be coming on.
Look forward to working with the new guys.
He wants 1,000 megawatt,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Gigawatt.
I appreciate
Yeah, gigawatt.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Mega giga.
Over the years, there's been several different opinions, several different ups and downs. What we've found out is following the process and letting the process work is the right way to do it. Whether we support solar or don't support solar, or we support wind or we don't, the process allows for things to happen within your community. And so, back to some of the comments that Ken remembers as well as I do in some interesting meetings, that was what the Board of Commissioners said. There's a process, and as Board of Commissioners, we allow a process to happen. And so that's how this is materialized. Lake County's sitting in a place where that solar is desirable for investor developers. So the process has allowed for the development that's happened.
And that process has evolved somewhat over the years as well.
Yeah.
So here we are in another solar project that's going to be, groundbreaking for this region and the area. And I just want to say at the outset that we appreciate your help and for sticking with us this whole time. So with that, give you a quick update on the project we called the City and Solar Center Fort Rock project, 400 megawatt project up north. It's going to sit on, it's going to sit on about 3,000 to 4,000 acres of property. Most of the property is pretty contiguous. We're going through the Energy Facility Siting Council for land use on that, because we have to, because of the size of the project. Very onerous project, very burdensome project, thorough. And we've gone through all the studies on the site, all the myriad of studies that we've had to do, and we're getting ready to send in the complete application, the final application for FSEC approval, get our site certificate. One thing that we're trying to lock down, and why I'm here today, is to lock down the strategic investment program agreement with the county, so we can tell investors in the project what the tax burden is going to be on this project, at least what the estimated tax burden is going to be on this project going forward. So I think that what we propose and what we negotiated with the county is fair, based on the cost and value and the other projects, for the benefit of some people in the audience. The way that the strategic investment program works, it's a state program for large-scale projects. It's for projects usually penciled to go into the strategic investment program when they're a couple $100 million or more. We think this project is going to be, the initial cost, if we build the full 400 megawatts, is going to be just over $500 million. So with that, if you're over $500 million in the strategic investment program, the way the calculations work in a nutshell is you take the first $50 million of the project and you tax it outright at the tax basis. So it just looks like a regular property tax return. And then you negotiate with the county a community service fee based on the value of the project going forward. And we've estimated the value of our project in the first year based on the income method and on a model that we've received from the State of Oregon Department of Revenue to be about $385 million. That generates a tax revenue, a tax base of $385 million. And then the benefit from the program is you basically take 75% of that, or you tax 25% of that. That 75. That $385 million. After you exclude the $50 million. So you basically take 385 less 50 million that you're already getting taxed on, take that number, multiply it by 25%, and that's the amount of, and then you multiply the tax rate on that, and that's the amount of taxes that you pay under the agreement. That's by the state calculation. To avoid having to go to the state every year to do a calculation, we're proposing that we just do a flat per megawatt for the length of the project. That way there's no arguing over what the valuation is, what the valuation method is each year. We don't have to go back and look at what the valuation of the project is every single year. And it's more what the county's used to seeing, like in a pilot agreement where you have a certain amount that you pay per megawatt every year. When you go through and you calculate, when you just do a straight calculation on a 400 megawatt project, it comes out to about, the community service fee comes out to about, an average over a 15-year period, about $1,500. It starts at $2,300 and it goes down to $968. That's if we just did the calculation.
That's per megawatt.
Per megawatt. Okay. So the average is about $1,500. It's $1,511 per megawatt. we're proposing to pay 2,000 a megawatt
That stays constant,
for the full
15 years.
15 years. So what that means in the first year, so it'd be $2,000 times 400 megawatts is $800,000, that's your community service fee, plus the taxes from the 50 million, which is about 550 million. So, yeah, 550,000.
Okay. That's gonna go with that other.
Yeah. Comes out to 1.35 million in the first year, and then it grows slightly over the term of the agreement, because that $50 million number grows by 3% a year. So we're taxed on that. Yeah, an increase of 3% a year. So it goes from 1.35 to the overall money to 1.6 million overall money over 20 years. Okay. And has prepared, a schedule for your convenience to look at, to see how that money would be split out under this formula. I don't know if you have that in front of you. But that's kind of for your review. I prepared the Exhibit A, the big spreadsheet that's in micro font, it's hard to read. For you to look at to see how the numbers were calculated.
I did not receive Exhibit A.
I haven't,
Is it in our packet?
I haven't received it, sorry.
Oh,
You're right, that exhibit A that he's using to show how he got to the $2,000 megawatt is not,
But you reflected that in this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's reflected in these numbers, so. And the numbers bear out what I was saying.
that
So-
exhibit A and exhibit D do become part of the agreement though, because
Yes.
of the statement that says we will look at the initial values in
Yes.
that estimate when it's all said and done and adjust up or down accordingly if
Yes.
it's higher than the 10%.
Yeah, so the process of, the evolution of this agreement was like, okay, how do we know, because we have to estimate a value today to satisfy our investors and have an agreement in place with the county. And the concern from Commissioner Shao was like, well, how do we know what the values are gonna be when you actually complete the project? So we put some language in the agreement that, the gist of the language says, when we complete the project, we're gonna go back and look at these numbers again, and if they change, if the power purchase agreement that we price assumption changes, or the costs change, or, the calculation changes, the rules change, whatever, we're gonna put it back into this formula, and if it changes by more than 10% either way, we're gonna adjust the community service fee by that amount, by 10 or 12%. If it's within a 10% range either way, we're just gonna leave it. It's just like $2,000. So that gives the county some protection, and it actually gives us some protection as well. So that was a kind of a clever way to deal with that. So we don't have to go back and go through a whole valuation process every single year.
I can tell you that what, looking at how the state even values utilities right now that we have in place for pipelines specifically, I think Dave and I both would strongly encourage signing agreements like this that give us a known payment. It's too late in the game when the state actually values these and provides information for us to make decisions on for the budget year. So these agreements, I think, although they're long in nature and they're uncertain in some ways, that stable payment and that known amount is very beneficial.
And I concur with Ann on that. I support that also.
On most basis, you've got some variations.
Right. Because there could be, we might wind up building a 300 megawatt project, but we'll just use the formula and calculate it on a per megawatt basis, the total amount on per megawatt basis, if it changes by more than 10%, we'll make it.
So all we're going to is a set formula and let the yearly fluctuation lie within that.
Well,
But
not the yearly fluctuation,
Not
but
the yearly,
when we get done with when we're finished with the project, we go back to the spreadsheet and say, okay, has anything changed in this? And then if it has, we plug it in, and if it calculates a 10% plus or minus difference, and we adjust it.
well, when the project first hit the news media, it was 800 megawatts.
Yeah, I don't know where they were at 800. We talked about 600 for one, and we intended to build 600, but we had a big piece of land that we're not gonna be able to use because of cultural issues.
So for today, I approached this as this is information today. We're not taking action on it today.
Correct.
You brought this forward. There's quite a few things that this does. We have to sit down with the taxing districts and bring them on board.
Well, so the way that SIP process works, there's two agreements. There's one agreement between me and you, and then there's another agreement that's completely separate from this process between the county and it's the taxing district.
Effective taxing districts.
Yeah, the effective taxing district. And so we have to, as part of the process, we have to bring this agreement forward in a public meeting. That's what we're doing today. And let people have public comment on the agreement. And then once you approve the agreement, then we send the packet in with our applications to the state economic development department with a check, of course. And then they review it. And then they are the ones that actually approve the package and put it in, officially put it into the strategic investment program.
Okay, so the way you talk is almost like a hearing process. Is it comes to the commissioners meeting and there's public comment accepted. That sort of fits a hearing process. That's not what this is today. And are you wanting public comment to go towards this today whenever the public hasn't even had a chance to review I consider this sort of draft?
It just has to go to a public meeting.
The public meeting.
Yes. Be on, it's at a public meeting, there's a public agenda, there's minutes. So people, people at least have an opportunity to review it if they want to review it, or make comments in the interim between now and whenever you guys want to approve this.
So this is your proposal to us, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. So we can take that under review and look at that. So you're to go out, your process, the DevSec process, does this have to be done before?
No.
This does not have to be?
No. But for investment purposes and, before we can go out and really try to sell this thing, they're gonna wanna know what's the deal, what do you have going with the county, what's the tax burden gonna look like on this, so we'd like to get it done sooner versus later. The other thing going on with this agreement, and I'm happy to, really excited to talk about, is our deal that we're doing with the North Lake School District in conjunction with this agreement. So we've promised we've agreed to make a pledge to the school of $10,000 per megawatt, one-time payment for each megawatt built, assuming we can keep this agreement like we have drafted with the county. What that means to the school, if we build a 400 megawatt project, is that we would write a check to the school's foundation for $4 million upon completion of the project. So the county's going to get $1.35 to $1.6 million every year over the course of 15 years. And school's gonna get a $4 million check up north. That's a lot of money to the school.
When he says the county, he means all the taxing districts.
Right.
Yeah, the taxing districts of the county, yeah. And, so we're excited to get it going, the school's excited to get it going, so we're not gonna sign the pledge with the school, until we have a signed deal with the county.
And back to that taxing districts, the school's taken out of that formula, so generally the general fund county gets about 26%, that changes because the school isn't in that taxing district formula on this, correct?
Well, it's even different because we're looking at a specific tax code area that is not, you know, there's only seven tax districts there. So that percentage that the county has is even a little bit higher in this scenario. Yes, but the school district comes out of the $2,000, they won't get a portion of that $2,000 per megawatt. That community service fee will be split between everybody else, not the school district.
What about the $50 million under normal
They
taxation?
will get that.
Then
They can't, we
that's
can't
just
do
normal
it.
taxation,
Yep.
period.
Yep.
Okay.
To go into that just a little bit further too, it is a separate agreement with the tax districts that we will enter if we're still all on the same page that we're going to distribute these, just like we do regular taxes currently on a pro rata basis. It's probably wise to make a statement when we move forward here that every year we're looking at the tax districts that are in operation for that tax year. For instance, if there is a new district that is voted in by the citizens up there, when they become eligible, if they do within this 15-year time period, the year they do, they would get a share of that community service fee as well. By the same token, if something is excluded, if we get rid of a tax district, the same would apply.
And that would be whenever we negotiate with those taxing districts, sit down with those taxing districts and make sure that language is in there.
Yes.
Just need some careful draft.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's, again, this is going to be in place for 15 years.
What you don't want to happen, I mean, this is your agreement, I don't really have to see the table of this, but what I could see happening is 4 or 5 years down the road, you have a new taxing district up there, say EMS, and they go back and say, okay, well, we want a part of this community service fee, and the other taxing districts or so, they could say, well, we already made our deal, you weren't around at that time, so
Sure.
to avoid that, you want to have some good language in that agreement.
Yeah, well, and especially where there is talk about going out for potential taxing districts and stuff, so, yeah, it's just doing it correctly, the right thing.
That'd be the same as what Ann alluded to, if one comes in, a new one comes in, or an existing one goes out.
Right.
And for the audience, the 7 taxing districts we're talking about are North Lake Health District, the County Extension Service, the County Library District, the county itself, of course, Central Oregon Community College, ESD, and the North Lake School District. Those are the 7.
And
Now-
that's all, so people understand, that's all predicated based on where this is being built.
Yes.
Those are the tax districts that provide services for this property.
Okay.
Now, there's a glitch with the school district, because if they get some money, then it's offset at the state and all that. Is the ESD also so affected?
Yeah, ESD runs through there.
But COCC is not, I understand.
No.
Okay. And that's part of that reason for that $4 million to the school foundation,
Right.
because otherwise they lose out.
That's
It's
a
not gain.
private agreement between, we try to come up with something that the state can't interfere with. So, you know, it's hard for me to imagine a situation where the state could interfere between a private donor and a school.
You know, what I'll say to you, that's between you and the school, and they'll figure out, and you'll figure out if that follows the guidelines of the state, and that's nothing to do with us.
So, but, they're pretty excited about it up there. We're excited to get this in place and do that pledge agreement, so, because we get asked all the time up there, what are you doing for us? what's the benefit to our area? And, I'd like, we've told them we've been working on this. It'd be nice to tell them, look, this is what we pledged, this is what we plan on doing. Have a solid answer for that. Besides the jobs and all that.
Okay. Other questions?
No.
We'll take it under consideration and
Could
some
we-
more further review.
Should we put it on when's your next meeting?
Our next meeting is November 6th, I believe, sometime around then.
Think we can put it on the agenda for consideration?
I myself would like to put it on out to the first part of December. I believe we're only having one meeting in November, or else I do a second meeting, but I'd like to do that. I have to do quite a bit of research on this myself. I know Commissioner Shown's done quite a bit of research. I don't know if Commissioner Kestner has. Our obligation to the other negotiations are set down with the taxing district, what kind of time frame that mean and everything. And this will not hold up your upset process. You said that. Doesn't hold up that part. So you can go forward with that part. This is a key part for your investors in selling the project.
And it's also, I think it's important, and not to offend the new commissioners coming in, but you guys have been doing this, and you've been looking at it, you're gonna be up to date on it. It'll be, it would slow things down a lot if we had to go back to the training. Bring two other commissioners up to speed on everything. Try to do that. So if we can get it done by the end of the year, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Well, my druthers would be the first meeting in December,
Okay.
knowing that I'm going to be missed, me personally, down the week for conference. Got some other time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get it on one of those meetings to give you guys enough time to look at it, and give people enough time to send in comments if they want, and so forth. And then, but the sincere hope is that we can get it signed up next time we meet on this issue.
Okay.
So if you want to do that on the first week of December or something.
Work sessions on the 4th, regular sessions on the 5th.
You want it on both? Talk about it one day and
Yeah.
go that next day?
Yeah, our normal is a work session with the decision the next day, and I would prefer that in case there's any.
This is a big deal to the county, so let's do that. We'll do the work session on Tuesday, if that's okay with you guys, and then the meeting, and we'll formalize it on the next day.
Are you gonna have another meeting in northern Lake County?
No. I mean, lots of meetings up there myself, but I don't, well, there may be, the state may want to go up there and do another meeting. I don't think Obsidian is gonna do another one. I don't know what the state is gonna do. The last meeting they held up there was a complete disaster, so I don't know what they're gonna wanna do there.
It'd be good to have representatives of the taxing districts.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're kicking around some things. We may go up there and do a town, just an Obsidian meeting, kind of tell people about the project, especially after we get this signed up, so we'll have something to talk about, People always like to talk about taxes and so forth. Hopefully, you guys will have your agreement with the taxing districts in place. Sounds like it's gonna be a pretty simple agreement if you're just gonna split pro rata. So they can talk to their, to their people, their neighbors about what each taxing district's gonna get. I think, if we do this deal, North Lake Health's gonna get $142,000 a year. Well, I think their total budget right now is like $250 or something like that, 300. So, all of these taxing districts will get a huge bump up there, once we get this thing going. So, it'll give us good momentum, good things to talk about up there. And, like I said, we're excited about it. it's a huge rock to push, you know, with the size of this project, but, we're pushing it along.
And this isn't fair to ask, because you probably don't have any idea. Have you got any indications from the state and the EPSEC process?
About,
This
Approval
moving
or-
forward and approval?
oh, yeah, no, they give us feedback all the way through the process, so they don't wanna have a bunch of problems after you turn it in. So they get every study that we do, we send it in. So when we send in a completed application, it's really with all the completed studies and everything. So, we're in constant contact and negotiation and, you know, the FSEC people kind of act almost like a mediator between us, like us and the tribes and us and ODFW, you know, when we're doing our mitigation strategy. So yeah, they don't want to get an application that they're gonna have to deny. So, we have all of that buttoned up before we send it. And then it goes through their process and they review it, and they might have a few comments or a few things for you to tidy up, but, it's pretty much, on track for approval.
I guess, just elaborate a little bit, the process going through EPSEC is very strict, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of compliance that you have to prove and move forward with
It's ridiculous.
cultural, wildlife.
Yeah, so we've done all cultural studies. We've done 3 different wildlife studies, including some mitigation study plans. We've done noise studies, we've done earthquake studies, we've done environmental studies, we've done other land use studies. We had to study the sound effects and of the line that we're gonna put in. We've done geotech borings on the site to consider the resistivity of the soil. We've done, we have to do an emissions study to determine the amount of emissions for the trucks bringing the solar panels from Portland to the site. We've had to do 2 different water studies, just figure out how much water we're gonna use, what the evaporation, what the runoff is. We've had to do a, we've had to do a heat study. We did a heat study to determine how much dissipated heat is gonna be, you know, could be generated from the modules to kick off. We've done a DEQ study to determine, try to determine how much dust and what our dust abatement program is gonna look like. There's a few other studies in there too. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but crazy amount of studies. Oh, and then we gotta pay them, the FSEC Department of Energy, $400,000 fee to review our application. And then we gotta pay them $30,000 a year, every year, for the life of the project. So they would take the book out of the desk and check the boxes and make sure that the project is doing what they said.
You tell me our planning and building fees are way under what they should be.
Well, I would bet that Darwin-
So speaking of that, Commissioner,
I would bet that
I sparked this group all
you sparked that,
I would bet that Darwin could use $30,000 a year in his office.
Pencil me in for December 1st.
Yeah.
4th or 5th.
So actually, that, you know, it's funny that you say that because there is a movement afoot with local planning commissioners. I think Darwin's part of this.
He's the ringleader.
Yeah, part of the discussion to kind of pull, for solar anyway, to pull back the jurisdiction to the local jurisdiction. That's it.
Just for the audience, because we keep using the acronym EPSEC, just explain for the audience on the camera that be monitoring.
The
what process
EPSEC is the Energy Facility Siting Council. It's ran by the Department of Energy and State Department of Energy. And for every, under state rules, if your solar project is on 320 acres or more, you have to go through the Energy Facility Siting Council, which is a state process that basically they're meant to be the the corral of all of the other state agencies, so ODF and W and
All jurisdictional, yeah.
SHPO, everybody that can, have jurisdiction over the site to, to pull that application together. That's your land use process, instead of going through the county conditional use permit process. So, in my mind, nobody in their right mind would go through FSEC voluntarily. So that's one of the reasons why our site, our solar project at Airport, is 315 acres, and not 321 acres. So, yeah.
And not that, whenever, I'm not sure when your Verish is done, but it might be worth taking a minute to talk about those issues of what's going on at FSEC, because they're of substantial concern to the counties, and some changes afoot that are concerning. So I don't want to interrupt Mr. Gregory, but if you guys want to take a moment for that, I think it'd be worth talking about.
Yeah. So they're trying to, and we're part of the, we're going to be part of the process during this next legislative session to enact some law, try to get some laws enacted to pull that jurisdiction, most of that jurisdiction back to the county.
Well, I believe for several years we're going to be seeing this because solar, as you said, 9-10 years ago, was the biggest project. Right now, we're talking 400 megawatts. At that time, there was no discussion of anything that size. With that said, the state, the counties, a lot of this is new process. It's literally breaking new ground, and legislators have
But
done it.
Lake County now has 10 years of experience with solar on the land use side. So FSEC has done one project. One solar project for their site. So I would argue that FSEC knows you guys know just as much about FSEC about the process as FSEC does.
So the FSEC process, just being that everybody's here, there's opportunity for public to comment during the FSEC process?
Yes, there are.
Pro or con? It takes
Throughout. You can send them comments. If you go on to their website, our project is on their website. You can go through and look at every piece of correspondence that's sent in, pro or con about the project. You can look at I think most of the studies are available if you want to go and pour through those. It's a very transparent process, open process. We're glad it's that way. We don't mind addressing issues on the land use side, so you can publicly comment through that. They do take it seriously. They look at every single comment, and they call us, ask us questions about certain things.
Okay, I heard you just going along. We're going to take this under consideration.
Okay.
We'll move it to work session and possible decision
Okay.
on Wednesday, the first meeting in December.
Appreciate that.
So, Todd, is there anything else, or Commissioner, any questions?
On the wildlife studies, the county asked you to address the adverse effects to certain species, correct?
Yes.
I was a wildlife biologist for many, many years, and I always turn the page and address the beneficial effect to whatever. Anytime you do anything, you adverse effect one, but beneficially affect another. So I'm very concerned about fence solutions.
Yes. Don't say that too loud, it'll make us study.
That'll be beneficial use.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you very much. Okay, so Friends of the Library are here. We're going to move back up our agenda to that. Welcome, grab another chair there, please. Thank you.
Hey, don't forget to go.
Oh, thanks.
I was thinking about just letting go.
Okay, clerk,
looking sharp.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Amy Hutchinson, the library director, and Margot Dodds, Friends of the Library, and Valley Park Imagination Library Committee. And so, do you want to give an update on where we're at with Dolly?
Well, this flyer, and I'm not exactly sure, because I didn't write it up.
I know.
We have
The money piece, but
well, the 63% registered for Lake County, including 66% of children in North Lake County, which is wonderful.
and the Imagination Library is and for those in the room who I don't know how you would have missed it at this point, but it's a program for 0 to 5 where local communities partner with the Imagination Library Foundation, which is a part of the Dollywood Foundation for Dolly Parton. And the children under 5 in a geographic area get mailed 1 book a month until their 5th birthday. And it costs communities $25 per child per year, which is very reasonable for the quality of books that are being sent.
And it's no cost to the family ever, and they're never solicited and their names are not given out.
Yes. And when we were preparing for the program to kind of know what kind of money we needed to bring in, the Imagination Library Regional Director for our area said, well, you know, usually the first year you're doing pretty good. If you get 20, maybe 40% registration the first year. We started in January and we're at 63% for the county, which is a testament to Lake County's commitment to education, I think. So we've served, actually, so you can see the first column is enrolled by area, which allows us to kind of make sure we're getting equitably across the county and if we need to focus our efforts differently. So we've got 205 kids enrolled. And then at the very bottom, you can see we've graduated 24 that started the program in their last year of eligibility. So they already turned 5. So we've served almost 230 kids out of the 326 that are available in the county. We're fortunate these first 3 years that Oregon Family Foundation is covering half the cost. And then you generously gave the program $1,000 donation. So we wanted to show you how well your funds are doing for Lake County's kids. And the way the Friends Recognition Program works, that enables Lake County to be thanked on the mailing labels for 3 mailings. So I wanted to see, would you like that recognition to be sent out there for 3 mailings?
I don't know that I don't think we need the recognition. I think the program speaks for itself. I don't.
Word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well then we will.
We support things we can, and we don't really expect recognition other than basically by word of mouth.
My only problem with it is that I find myself looking at little kids, trying to figure out if they're under 5 and approaching their parents about what they're like, you know, have they signed up? I signed up somebody at the Sir Optimus Oktoberfest, walking around with a little baby, and I said, oh, are they in the Valley Park Imagination Library?
My best story is I recently met a new mother who had said she had a 6-month-old child, and I said, oh, well, have you signed up for the Imagination Library? She says, yes, Margot was my nurse, and she signed me up there in the hospital. And then, do you guys have any questions about the program, or?
So this is the start of the 2nd year, correct?
No.
January will be the start of the
January will
2nd
be
year.
the start. And so your funding for those 3 years is good?
Well, we have about 7,000 in the fund right now, and then we're gonna start at the year end, we're gonna mail everyone that gave before and see if they would like to give again, coming up here in the next month or so. Yeah, and do you wanna tell about the Clark Foundation?
Oh, there was a man in Portland who gave me a call out of the blue and said he'd read in the Lake County Examiner about the Valley Park Imagination Library, and he was the director of the Clark Foundation. And his wife was from Lakeview, Laura Burling. So he is the director and he could make a choice. I said, well, yes, we would love it. And we talked for a little while and they sent us a check with $2,500. I mean, just, you know, so it's really wonderful. But it, I mean, you can't really fault the program, except for if you don't want to read to your child.
Yes.
It could be a nuisance because the child is gonna and then want to read it again, but that's, you know.
But that age class is, and I've got a passion for that age class too, because that's where the kids get the compass bearings for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's nice. Well,
Thank you.
And it can also-
Appreciate the update on that. Appreciate seeing where it's broke
Thank
down
you
there.
for your support. It was
And
pretty amazing.
it has been amazing. And then I also brought, the library just did a strategic plan, which you may or may not wish to read in great detail for your fund. But one thing I do want to for sure call your attention to is the last section, starting on page
Numbers.
Page numbers, yes, and are in the top
Okay.
right-hand corner.
Okay.
Top left-hand corner, thank you, the other right. On page 14, there's a section, the community analysis. I know it can be difficult for all of us with our 2 incorporated communities to get good statistics, so we made a good effort to put a lot of good data together. And I think I will email it to Melanie, if she doesn't mind, and anybody who, you could just email it to everybody, and whoever wants a copy can save one. And if you want a printed copy, let me know, I'm happy to make one. But some of the things that we found, you know, that we knew sort of anecdotally but didn't always have a handle on page 15, the population by area, North Lake versus South Lake, which is based on the health district boundaries. The North Lake population is growing substantially and has almost doubled since 1990. And the South Lake has dwindled a bit. I think that might change in the next couple of years with Red Rock and all of that. And then we did some projections on page 16 about where we think we might be in the next 20 and 50 years. I mean, of course, the farther out you go, the less, you know, the less you can pinpoint it exactly, but these are based on the Portland State University Population Research Center does the annual, not the annual, I think it's every 5 years? Oh, is it annually?
They do a
Yeah, I
lot
think
of
so.
stuff annually.
Well, they do the annual populations, but they also do forecasts.
It's every 4 years.
Is it 4 years, Darwin? And so we kind of went with the Lake County one for the South Lake areas that are on the chart, but kind of, you know, North Lake is caught in the tailwind of Deschutes County's growth. And so we made some adjustments based on the Deschutes County numbers for our projections, which we also used for our needs assessment for a new library in Christmas Valley in the future. And so, you know, we can see there's going to be quite a bit of growth still up there. And the park, again, I think the projections for here might not be quite right with some of the new things going on. The other thing that is not surprising to anyone is we have an aging population, so our percentages of people over 60 in general are higher, and our percentages of people between 25 and 45 are lower on page 17. And our educational attainment is quite good, given especially our economic characteristics, so I think that's something we can be proud of as a county. And then one of the ones that was a great surprise to me was on page 20 is the poverty and income rates by area. So in the chart there, you've got North Lake, South Lake, rural, and Oregon. So if we start on the right with Oregon, the percent of people below the federal poverty line looks to be about 18, and below 200% of poverty line, which is a threshold for a lot of income assisted programs for people on low incomes. It's a little less than 40%. Rural's a little bit higher, so a little closer to 20 and right at 40%. And then for the southern part of Lake County, about the same on the poverty line, but almost 50% at low income. And then if you go to North Lake, it's over 20% at poverty line and 60% low income. So we knew that was true, but this really shows that we weren't making it up. It is in fact true and might influence how we provide services up there in general. And then we're fortunate because unlike most of the rest of the state, at least our housing is still affordable, so that's a win. And our unemployment rates are in 2018 lower than they were before the recession. So that's something also to celebrate. And then back at the beginning is the library piece of it, and I won't talk a lot about that, but we did a, we are in the position, and maybe with the earlier discussion it might go along better in the future, but as you well know, the PERS rates have been increasing and the health insurance costs have been increasing and the tax base has not been increasing at the same amount. So we're getting to the point where it's gonna, we've done we've had wonderful friends come and be formed and raise money and help supplement our book buying budget, and we've reconfigured our staffing to be more efficient when people retire and all of those things. But we're kind of getting to the point where there's not much left to finagle. So we needed to know what the community valued most about our services, so that as we go forward, we can use those to plan for how we do. And unsurprisingly, Lake County children will be ready for kindergarten was a key goal for community members who came to our meeting to tell us what's important about the library. And so there's a whole variety of things we're doing with those. That Lake County residents will explore ideas through engaging stories and lifelong learning. So that's our fiction and our nonfiction collection. People can learn through nonfiction titles, but also through reading stories about other people's lives or other places. That's personally how I live to learn about history, is historical fiction. The Lake County residents will have high-speed access to the digital world, both in the fact that there are a number of residences that it is impossible to get broadband at, and with the economic constraints, the library is a key place that a lot of people connect, either to the internet with their own device, or come and use the computers to apply for jobs, or connect with their family on Facebook, or any of those things, and we'll continue doing that for sure. And the Lake County residents will have comfortable spaces to connect with each other and the wider world. There's, the library is a place for everyone, I like to say. And so we have lots of community members come in. They use our meeting rooms, or they often, there's no meeting room in Christmas Valley, that they're so spread out up there, they love to come to the library and visit with their neighbors and their friends where they see people. Whereas when they're at home, 5 miles from anybody, they're not going to be able to sit down and visit. And then we have a couple organizational goals. In order to carry out our mission, we need to have financial sustainability and promote the library so people know what we provide to the community. So as we go through the next 18 months or so, we're kind of going to quantify where our financial gaps are, and then have some community conversations about how those get filled. So I hope that maybe someone from this board might be willing to be a part of that. And then the next section is just kind of a portrait of the library and a little bit of library history and trends. In general, library use, when the recession hit, library use increased dramatically in the nation, because as people had fewer resources, they maybe stopped buying books at home and started using the library, or came to the library to do job searching and all of those things. So there was a big upswing, and then as the recovery happened, that use is tapered back to normal. So a couple of our graphs look like we're doing badly, but it's because we're on the curve of returning to normal. But we are having pretty steady use overall, following the national trends in most cases, except in the nation, program attendance is generally on the rise. We're sort of level and it fluctuates depending on, we're a member of a library group that writes grants to provide programs to rural libraries. So depending on how successful that group has been lately in bringing programs, it impacts the number of programs we're able to offer. But we do have about 3,500 registered library users in Lake County. So about 42%. And we know from being in the library, often there's one card for the whole family. So that those 3,500 cards is serving more people than that. We have about 37,500 visits to our libraries annually.
Is that north and south?
That's all four, yeah. So Lakeview, Paisley, Silver Lake, Christmas Valley, all combined. But then you can see on page 10, there's a chart of visits per open hour. So every branch has different hours. So you can kind of see how many people come into each library per open hour. And I think one key thing is Lakeview has a lot more space than the other places. So we have a lot more population condensed around where the library exists physically. So we have the most visits per open hour, but once we get to the point of doing a new facility in Christmas Valley, I think that will jump substantially there as well.
Is that by percentage of the population in that area, or is it by numbers?
So this is by how many bodies walked in per hour the library was open.
Okay, so it may not reflect the sort of percentage of the population that goes to the library when it's open.
That's correct, yes. Last year, well, 2016-17, because when we did this, 2017-18 numbers weren't available yet, but about 47,000 items were checked out. So that could be a book, a movie, an ebook, an audio book that you can download straight to your device for when you're driving. And so that's about an average of almost 6 items per person over the year, which is pretty good for our rural area. Generally, when you have high population density, you have higher library use. And when you have low population density, you have lower per capita use because people have to come farther, so they come less often. Most popular, fiction books for adults, videos for adults, and youth picture books. So those are the most popular things that people come and check out. And then we have books from the adult shelves, both fiction and nonfiction. So people sometimes think, oh, who reads anymore? Everything's on the internet. Well, I would like to tell you a lot of people read still. And then our public computers, we have 12 in Lakeview, 6 for adults, 3 for teens, and 2 for elementary, and then a laptop that we use to provide help that's right near the circulation desk. Christmas Valley has 5 computers, Paisley has 2, and a laptop, and then Silver Lake has 2. We've seen a lot more devices come into the library, so people want to bring their own and just use the Wi-Fi. We're fortunate we're also connected to Hunter here in Lakeview, so we get great speed all the time. That's something we need to work on as speed issues for the branches over the next 5 years. And thanks to some work that's been done here, we're going to have more options, so that's wonderful. And then our programs that we offer for the public, we have our summer reading program every year for the kids. Kids need to read about 10 hours over the summer so that they don't lose their reading skills between school years. So we have weekly programs in the summer. We have our story time programs every week in Lakeview, and then David goes out to the Head Start and whatever local preschools would like us to come once a month. And then we have a volunteer in Paisley, and we just found a volunteer for Christmas Valley to do story times in those libraries, so those are great. And then for adults, we have a variety of programs. We had, last week, Larry LeClaire has written a book. He's a local author, you may know him, he's a corrections officer at prison. So we had a reading and book signing and had a small crowd and some surprise family members come. We've had, artists come and present. We've had wildlife managers come and present information to the public, so it's just a wide variety. And if anyone, has a great idea for a program, then we're always willing to see if we can make something happen in that regards. So I think that's kind of the summary of where we're at and the plan, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
it might be, honestly.
Good.
Everything there, having a strategic plan for 2018, 2023 should, when you're applying for grants and everything,
Yes.
if you have this
Yes.
done, you can check that box. Sometimes it moves you up further.
It sure does, that's true.
So, and it doesn't matter, probably a pretty good cost to build, have this put together and everything also. They don't come for free.
No, we got a Ford Family Foundation Technical Assistance Grant, so we covered about half the cost. And we were smart because the consultant we chose does strategic and facility plans, so we got the needs assessment for the space for Christmas Valley done with the same travel cost of doing the strategic planning, so it worked out very well.
So, being we've been talking payment in lieu of taxes and taxation and everything, so like the SIP agreement up in North Lake would create a substantial amount for the library. Would that money be used as a general budgeting purpose, or would that be specific for North Lake?
So I think that we'd have to, I mean, that'd be really a decision for the library board. But there's some, at the moment, with our Ruby money, we finance to part of the cost of the building. We raised about $2.5 million, but then we had about 1.2 that we financed to be able to get over there and move in. And then, it's a very energy efficient building. I actually pay almost the same as the percentage that we paid over here for utilities, and that's 10,000 square feet versus what, 3,200, 3,300 when we were over here in this exact space.
Exactly.
But we do have more computers, so we have our technology costs are higher, we have an elevator, so now we have to have that maintained and extra phone lines, and so all of those little bits with the debt service together kind of have captured all of the Ruby payment. There's not extra of that around.
Looking in your graph here, you've come together.
We have come together.
You are there.
We are there, and hopefully we stay there. And so there's things we should be doing that we're not able to do at the moment budgetarily with setting aside money for computer replacements, and we did not, all of our buildings except Silver Lake have been other owned until we built this one, and so we never had to save money to put a roof on again in another 25 years, and so there's those costs that we need to be setting aside. So I don't know how the strategic investment program funds will end up being used. I think the board and I will have to sit down and see kind of where our
It wouldn't hurt any to have extra dollars.
And no, it's not gonna hurt at all to have extra dollars at all. It's gonna be, I was telling Ann, I was like, this is good news. So yeah, but I can't say yet how it'll be used exactly.
And that's a few years down the road actually
It is.
before that would happen. You have everything to take care of between now and then.
Yeah, well, and we do periodically do an internal assessment to kind of compare using the school district taxable values to make sure that the service is somewhat equitable for taxes being put into the district. And at the moment, it looks like Lakeview's a bit carrying things, but more of the costs are here for the building now, so it's pretty balanced. The Paisley School District and the North Lake School District, we actually spend a little bit more than we receive in tax money to provide those services, which seems reasonable, but then when this comes into town, that would change the formula, so.
You have a board and they do the budgeting and you guys will do that.
Yeah, we will.
Very good. Any other questions? Any other come forward? Thank you ladies very much. And
I'll take this home and read it.
Okay, good.
looks very successful on the Dolly Parton.
Yeah, it's going well. So if anybody knows a little kid between 0 and 5, you can sign up online. It takes about
Darwin has
15
24
seconds.
kids. Oh, no, it's all
During the program.
Some of them have graduated.
I have my phone right now, we can sign up right now.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. It's good, it's going to be a long day, so 5-minute break. We'll be back to the gym.
Here, I'm gonna leave these for Damon.
All the checks are cleared, we could go right to the just go and do it.
Because it's a public meeting.
Turns out I'm ready.
I just like to hear what's going on.
Yes, yes, and it's just hard, I don't have to read.
You know,
At least Friday and Monday.
the next time around, hopefully. No, she just went glad you're up. That's cool. I kind of stressed that. I try to do that, people take it wrong. Like, I almost think I can realize. Other desert grounds? Virtually all of those. But who's got it? That's the whole. She said, yes.
And then no, starting all
Well, I hope those businesses are.
Just by your stuff right in there. Yeah. You're sort of targeting. I like it.
Yes.
I briefly filled Brad in my letters, but here.
Brad, are we recessing for a minute? I didn't check, okay.
Yeah.
What's up,
Not
Chief?
every when I said that.
No, I was busy.
Yeah.
Starting construction yet?
Yeah, the 5 minutes don't know stuff. I got the rest of it. 1 o'clock is right here, and let's go.
I like the winemaking. I kind of, like, where are we at in the process there? Like, what's next?
So, girls stomped the grants.
Saturday or Sunday? Sunday.
He's disappointed with the way it ended up. I drove by, I got one, there's some stain on some of the tents. He gets some hot water paint and plants like that, yeah, so, we can do that if we need to.
Okay, I will email it.
That'd be great.
And then, Mark,
It was so heavy, I couldn't even punch it.
do you have an email? Are you on the email list? Like if I send it to Melanie, does it come to you for the strategic plan?
She could make it come to me.
Well, or I could just.
I don't know what my time.
She can make it, I'm not gonna ask her if I got it.
And it's co.lake.or.us.
Okay.
Oh,
Can do.
Will they change it? Probably.
It's just your name.
Oh, well, that's easy. Well, you'll be on the all people listed.
You did great. Do you do this annually?
I should.
I think you should.
Yes, you're right. It's totally correct, especially now that we have a strategic plan and I can update them annually, so that'll be good. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm out there. Thanks.
Do you need anything, so I checked the mail on
Thursday
down
or
Friday,
Friday.
so I'll check again, but it's still coming in there, so hopefully more stuff is coming to you. Do you need
Yeah, I
anything?
do have a number of things. I don't know, like, it says clear mail envelope, PO Box 44, and they keep delivering it to the library, so, okay.
Okay.
Anyways, I got about 40
Okay.
gallons worth of cheese.
So what I do, and it's up to you, if you want to come and collect some,
Yeah,
then
I went down,
I can log
he's
them
about
and
one
get
of
them
those
for you.
32-gallon
But
cartridges.
generally what we've done is I just
And it's down about that far from
and
the
then I
top.
give them all of the money with the list.
Well, bring it to the county, barbecue.
So,
That way I've covered my butt that.
trying to figure out how,
Really?
Lily, you know, she's
Okay.
from Portugal, so
Okay, thank you.
that's how they did it. So she keeps calling her mom in Portugal and asking her.
I'll figure it out.
So I need to find a complaint girl. So I can help them in there. They're gonna filter it.
Yeah, did you find it?
I'll bring you back.
You should call Stringers.
I did.
Dang.
I just don't.
So how long can you wait before you gotta
I think I got it, I think
get a little bit?
Yeah, because it's gotta ferment anyway.
the only time I ever tried to make alcohol was in high school. I just,
Yeah.
and I put it in the seal.
You know,
And my closet.
I know, you know how I found out?
Boom! And so I'm getting this line to my mom.
Portuguese skate.
I was trying to figure it out.
Called me, left me just a nasty
Everything covered.
But how sloppy work, how, I should be embarrassed with all the work my workers doing. Yes, it's disgusting, it's horrible, it's just sloppy, I
God.
can't believe I didn't get away with
That was
this.
my
Just on and on and on. So I called back to talk.
They know what not to do anyhow.
I called Amy.
So does it have to, like, is the wine barrel completely sealed?
Okay, so you gotta let the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, let's do the same thing on research it.
So, are we going through that with a fine tooth comb?
Okay.
And then, so have a fire review process. Commissioner sign it.
Okay, okay.
Well, because your time
That's
and
why
half
we
are
need
late.
wine barrels, it's like 5 minutes.
Increase that, I'd say.
That's fine, but you give me 10% of what I make through the
You're
electrical.
gonna have plastic.
I'll tell that.
Okay. Ken?
A barrel.
Coffee?
From my office? Yeah, I wouldn't do
This is
that.
legit.
The, meeting,
Are you all done?
that little off sheet for the girls.
Yeah, the assessors.
Yeah, they're, well, there was just
Yeah, it's fun.
enough in there.
So
They come
my
down to
good
my
friends,
office 'cause it's just
Matt
me and Nick
Stephanie
Sawyer
and
right now,
I
that's a
lived
fresh
in that
pot.
house when they lived here. So I know, I've ate on those grapes and stuff. Very
lunchtime.
good. And
I
it
need
is
that
amazing,
drink.
it's one, and I
I
bet
haven't
it's.
finished my first cup, sitting on Victoria, sitting on,
Yeah.
the little meeting table in my
Yeah.
Stu's gone.
Huh?
Stu's canceled.
And I rebought the house, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's not very,
Right
but it's just the type of grape, and it's protected kind of,
Okay.
it's there
Yeah.
between.
I didn't know about it, I just found out probably 20 minutes ago, they rescheduled that for next Tuesday.
Okay, it's 5 minutes to 11.
Sounds
We'll
good,
come back
there's
into
supposed to be a
session
training today too.
and
Jake stops where
get back onto our
Okay.
agenda. I appreciate
It's
that.
all- It's swirl.
nothing in the pool.
Order, please. Okay, we're back into session. At this time, we've had no comments on the hearing, and we're going to close that hearing at 5 minutes to 11 with no comments received. And there will be another hearing on the 29th, correct? All right. So, Mr. Andrews, you are next with the construction contract. Do you have other updates too?
Yeah.
Okay. So, get it fast. How's that sound?
All right, sounds good.
Until I get to talking, then we'll slow it down. You guys don't have to tell me.
So we got the signed contract back from Alex Hodge, and basically we just need signatures from the county now to finalize that so we can press forward on the airport rehab and beacon project.
Okay, so this, them being a contractor was already approved, correct?
Correct,
Correct, and so this is just the actual contract itself?
correct.
Okay, so they were approved as the one that is in compliance with our advertisement, so
Right.
I'm rifling through my stuff, looking for it. Do you have it, Commissioner? Because I'm open for it.
That's for Alex Hodge, right?
Correct. Do you need this one, Brian?
I think I found it. So this is the total the total contract price, 1.5
Yep, 1.596.
or 18. Okay, so I'll move to accept the contract that's before us between Lake County and Alex Hodge Construction LLC. And you did Dave to get this, or you before legal counsel, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Do you have a copy for us to sign?
I gave it to.
Okay, all right. So with that, you have a department update, or several possibly department updates. And just, Dave will be back later on this week. He's off for some personal things this week. So, thank you for being here to do the presentation.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, and probably the first update is on this, the pavement rehab and beacon project that we're on. As we've talked about before, the original plan was to pave around the T-hangers as well and put in a security fence. The cost of both of the bids we got for this project were way over what we expected. So there was about a $600,000 deficiency there. The FAA had another grant for us. We applied for that grant, but the round one, we did not get the grant. But the FAA came back and said that after reviewing their grant approvals, they realized that all of the monies in round one had gone to large airports, and there was no smaller airports on the list. Lake County is one of the, I think one of three, if I remember right, in the state of Oregon that are on that list.
On the small list.
On the small list, right. No airports in Oregon were awarded anything. So I believe it's, I think it's March, if I remember right. They're coming up for round two, and there's a really good chance that we'll be on that list fairly high, because they said that where nobody was awarded, who was the small airports, we're gonna get a second chance at that. So there's still a chance we'll get that extra paving and security fence in. It just, we have to wait for their process second time around and see how it goes.
And so, would you have to go back out for another RFP or anything, or it just falls right into the funding coming in, able to add it on?
That, I don't know, everything's already approved. The FAA and all that stuff is approved for the other sections, the add-ons.
Okay.
So, if we do get awarded that, then I'm sure we'll have to go back, we're probably gonna have to go back out to bid for that as well. 'Cause we can-
That was contingent upon funding all those that were.
Yeah, that was, there was an A, B, C, and D section. All of A, which is the original grant that we got with the federal and state grant, all of that's getting done. That's what the Alex Hodge contract is right now. The others are basically been pulled aside and separated. The FAA was happy to allow us to do that. They said that's fine. Everything's still there, all the surveys, all the studies are done, so it's just a matter of them awarding another grant.
But
Carry that on, but then
Yeah, in the
we'll,
process, that's almost a year later, so the prices would change on fuel, paving, and all that stuff, so it'd be appropriate probably to, whatever the
Yeah.
guidelines tell us. Okay.
yeah, we'd have to go back out. Yep. So, that's that. We have, the Forest Service, Seat Base and Hella Base, they requested to put in a new well out there for two reasons: quality of water in the old well, and they want a larger well so that they can produce more water and get a timelier return on the fuel to retardant mixture. So they did get the grant, and it's been approved, so it's just a matter of, I told them I would come before the commission and request and see if there was any, objection to them putting a larger well in out there on their leased facility.
So the first thing I would say is, great, we need that. If they were to never lease from us or be out there anymore, that well would become our property. That has to be talked about ahead of time, any improvements and all that. And you probably should also make sure that those improvements include the pump house, or however it's set up, that becomes county ownership if they dissolve the agreement with us there.
Okay.
And with that, the water rights probably would have to transfer or whatever. I can't speak to that any at all, the water master. Check with the water master, make sure the county's protected. We don't look for them to go away, but at the end of the day, if they go away, that's our traditional way that we work on our leased, our rented property is improvements like that becomes ownership of the county.
Right.
And where they went out for a grant, they have to make sure that that fits within that grant also.
Within the grant, okay.
So that's something I would check with them about, make sure that that's up front. Is I'd hate for them to walk away and then they pour it full of cement and we don't have access to it.
Okay. All right, well then I'll take care of that today. I'll call Barry and make sure that we get those details worked out.
Yeah.
In writing.
Yeah.
In writing, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you heard any updates on the joint contract?
So they're still having to go through different processes there about, so what is the scenario? I think it's BLM money that is being used on a Forest Service facility. And so and it's going up higher levels on what needs to happen according to that lease agreement, if they really should split it into two, so you have both agencies leasing it, and then both of their dollars are always available to go, or just making some kind of agreement of hire that it's okay for those dollars to flow back and forth. But in the same time, they're looking at expanding the footprint of the lease. But even saying it that way, you can see how complicated it is.
Yeah, so that's kind of complicated, but what I was thinking was, if we're in the process of writing a new lease, if they're not gonna want to rush this well, maybe we can get it all done at the same time, and if not, then I'll get it in writing separate for the well, so that we have that
Yeah.
taken care of.
And we don't want them to not do it well.
Right.
But talk with them, find out what their guidelines and what, you know. And maybe check with the water master too, make sure that they get the right permit to build. There's a lot of rules around drilling wells nowadays, and I'm sure they're going through the right process, but I give you, learn a little bit if you talk with Brian, the water master.
Okay.
Make sure to follow up on that.
Okay. Let me see if there was I have a couple other notes here. I want to make sure that. Oh, and then the last thing is our we did receive the whole $150,000 grant core grant from the state for our electrical and plumbing upgrades. So this coming spring, we'll be looking at putting in a emergency generator system that will run the airport lighting and all the electrical for the facilities out there in case of power failure. So the big plus there is emergency services. If we have an airplane come in the night to pick someone up and the place is completely out without power, we would have no way for them to land. So now, after this coming spring, we'll have that ability out there too. It will just automatically kick on and those lights will go. Fuel sales will continue because we've had multiple times over the years where we've had to put in NOTAMs, so that pilots know that there was no fuel available. And
because of lack of power.
Because of lack of power, correct. And that will totally take care of that. So we've had to literally pump 5 gallon cans of fuel at a time to get people that have landed there back to where they need to go. So, that's kind of in desperation, you know, we pump it and let them put it in their aircraft, but it got them where they needed to be, and we don't wanna have to do that anymore. I mean, it's
Just a question, we have the truck out there, we usually have fuel on the truck, is it not capable of fueling when we're out of power?
that's only jet fuel.
Only jet fuel?
Yeah, only jet fuel, so it takes care of that, but any of our, you know, general aviation airplanes and helicopters flying through, they could get, in fact, one it would have been 4 or 5 hours that would have been sitting there, and nightfall was coming, and they weren't too pleased that they were stuck in the middle of nowhere, basically, in their mind, so.
Not the middle of nowhere, it's the outback.
Yeah, it's the outback.
No, they finally ended up somewhere, and that's here.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So, but that's good, that's, I mean, that whole scenario will go away with the electrical
Well,
upgrades.
That grant through Regional Solutions in Business Oregon is huge, and I know Dave has got an opportunity, we all need to make sure and let Nellie with the Governor's Office and Larry Holzgang, Business Oregon, know how much we appreciate that, because we actually, we're very fortunate. Some people done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for us, and that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean,
Yep.
It's wonderful, it really kind of tops off the development that's going on out there, you know, supporting and sustaining things.
Yep.
And I said last thing, didn't I, but I got one more that I just thought of.
Okay, get it?
And if you guys, I'll give you this here so you know what we're talking about, but right there, this one. This is a parking lot. I had a meeting about 2 weeks ago now, I guess, with the FAA and the state aviation board. And what they were requesting was that we update our 5-year plan to show up through 2024. We had nothing on our master plans for 2024 as far as our next project in place. So 2021 and 22, the parallel taxiway will be the project that will be the focus alongside the runway to the east with their new commercial development. In 2023, there's going to be a gap there. And then in 2024, what I have requested was that the new parking area for the new facility be put to the east to support, you know, any of the commercial traffic just coming in and parking. So that, where I highlighted number 23 there, that is already on our master plan. And the FAA is good with all that infrastructure being done, and they didn't see a problem with being able to get the funds to put that parking area in. So that gives us tie down for probably another 12 to 14 aircraft. And what I also requested was that in the grant, we would be able to put in a larger fuel farm at that location. So eventually, all the commercial facilities would be supported by that fuel farm over there on that side. The FAA, when it comes to the actual fuel farm, the fuel tanks, they're hesitant. They said that unless there's no other project needs, they wouldn't fund those tanks. But what they would do is they would fund everything under the tanks. So the cement, the electrical, everything to support that. So that would just give us the ability to really have a good storage area. And with the large hangar that is on the plan there beside it, if we ever get that built or have a company come in and want to build a 100 by 100 hangar there, that would completely support that new FBO right there. So.
And your new generator going to feed that area?
It should be able to, yeah. Yeah, because we're going to be feeding the runway lights and everything with it, so I don't see a problem with having that over there.
I think you have to increase your conduit.
Yeah. Yeah, but when that project's put in, that all have to be laid, but I don't see why that would be an issue there. So that's our 2024 plan. We've added that to it. The FAA is accepted that, and that's been put on the Oregon aircraft site as well, so that our plan is updated with the state at the same time, just to kind of keep everybody in the loop, and hopefully our grants will continue to flow the way they have, and we'll,
What do you have going with plumbing, water system?
the water and the plumbing is part of that, the $150,000 grant that we just got. So that is, when we do the electrical, there's also plans to do the, more improvements to the well and the plumbing system. We ended up having a failure pump that we were gonna replace with the grant. It ended up failing a few weeks ago, so. But there's still lots of development that needs to be done out there as far as the plumbing goes. Restrooms need to be updated and taken care of, so that money's gonna be put to use at the far end of of the plumbing system.
Very good.
And I think that's about it.
All right. Show me where you need these signed. Get them signed.
I believe Mandy.
I never seen anything that showed for sure.
I have them tabbed, I think, and then there's
Yeah, there's one
flags
there.
for the dates.
And then there is the other one, right? Right here.
That's showing witness.
Okay, so this is not
I don't see where it shows the place for Lake County.
the Lake County assignment.
So go ahead,
Signed and sealed.
get it back to
Okay, I'll get it to
Melanie.
Melanie, and we'll-
Make sure we get it signed in the appropriate place.
Okay.
I'd hate to jeopardize 1.5 million by not signing correctly.
Missing that spot, yeah,
So,
exactly.
Okay. I'd seen a place for witness to sign. I didn't see. So with that, work with Melanie.
Okay.
And so running on down the agenda here, is Paul going to come in?
I can take it if he's not available. Recently we discussed the fingerprint machine. The fingerprint machine in the jail isn't down. It's utilized by many people, not just the jail. It's a service that we provide to the public. Initially, they said it was going to be $50,000 to replace, but we worked around it and we're using some existing equipment, so it's going to be $23,000 and $23,893 for the new software and scanner that we'll need. It's going to come out of his materials and services budget, although he did not anticipate this breaking down, so at the end of the year, he might need a contingency.
Okay. So I visited with you and with the sheriff and with Paul on this, and I assured them that at the end of the year, if their budget, through both categories, materials and service, and through the wages, if there's not enough money to cover this, that the Board of Commissioners will, by resolution, go to contingency to pay for this. I just want to make sure for comfort zone for them that is where we're at. So this money will be taken out of their budget at the end of the year. If that forces their budget over their normal operations, we will do a resolution to take that out of contingency. And that's exactly the way that it should work.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the cost of $23,893 for the fingerprint machine as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. OLCC permit, this is to ratify. This is a temporary sales license permit that came in, which a lot of these have to be ratified because of the time frame people bring them in. This is this is for Ross and Kelly McGarva, and I was signed by one of the commissioners, Dan Schaum, and so I'll move to ratify the temporary sales license for Russ and Kelly McGarva as presented.
Yeah, second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Greer, community action contract, sir.
Community action. So, last year, we entered into an agreement with the community plan with Lake Community Action Services for energy assistance. So, folks get referred to class, community action, and they go through the energy assistance criteria, and if they met the criteria for energy assistance, they were asked then at that time if they wanted assistance with electrical heat bill, monitor oil, or firewood. If folks choose firewood, they send a referral to us, our worker goes out and picks up the firewood and delivers it. The contract also calls for anywhere from $125 to $115 to $140 funding coming into us per cord of wood. The reason there's a difference is if we just take it and deliver it and dump it in someone's driveway, we get $115 for the cord of wood. If we stack it, we get an additional $15, and if it's outside of a Lake County area, or Lakeview area, outside, within a certain few miles, they pay us an extra $10. So since we service countywide, if we go to Paisley or out west side, Plush or Adele, we usually get the max, and most folks want that stack. So it's just an operating agreement that we have with them. Pretty standard. Mr. Bailey looked at it, we entered into it last year. The thing that I met with them this year and talked to them, because there are those folks that don't meet the energy assistance criteria, and it's all based on financial. I requested a copy, a listing of who those folks are that are not meeting it and why. Oftentimes folks need it because they make $20 too much. $20 too much is still, it's worth my while to deliver them a cord, 2 or 3 of firewood. Otherwise they're not gonna have it.
Right.
There was an individual that.
That was some of the uniqueness that we found. So you're addressing that, and you're able to make that call based on.
We're gonna make that call, but
Are you
it's not
going to-
just me making the call. We're gonna have a team that reviews it, so it's just not on my shoulders.
Very good.
It might be, they make $1,000 too much. Well, what's their home life like? Is it all medical? Are they dumping too much money?
I filled in some of the calls, so I appreciate you.
So it's not gonna
This
be
part of it.
me making that call. I think Treasurer Kramer is gonna make that call. I'm gonna delegate her. So if we could vote on that, I'd appreciate that. Aye. Yeah. But there'll be a group of us that gets together and makes that call.
There's a need there based on other factors.
I was disappointed last year. Well, I wasn't disappointed, I was, I'll be honest. We only delivered about 150 quarter wood last year, where the year prior, we were about 340. So I was a little disappointed we didn't get as much wood out, but we had this contract, and we were bound to the contract. So I requested some boundaries, the boundaries be stretched, and they're willing to accommodate those.
Very good.
So we're moving forward with that.
Okay, so you
And then
need,
any monies that come in, that we get for the quarter wood, we split down the middle with Warner Creek Correctional Facility. We use our half for wear and tear on our trailer and our vehicle, and gloves for our crew members. The prison takes their half for the chains, for their saws for maintenance on their chainsaws, and then also wear and tear on their van and their trailer as well, and then safety equipment. So I think they're getting, the split for this year, I'll be working with Nick Young, getting them a check is about $2,300 this year. Will be the third last firewood season, will be their split. So, and we retain 2,300.
okay. All right. So entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
I'll second. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the Oregon Low Income Energy Assistance Agreement as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Jake, your next thing is youth investment
Yes.
position.
With our current youth investment coordinator, Mark Albertson, being elected as county commissioner, that leaves position open within the juvenile department. So we opened that up in September. We held interviews last week and made a formal offer to Micah Patterson to take on that position. So I'm here for the board to request permission to fill that position starting on October 28th, or excuse me, October 30th, to work side by side with Mark. The reason being, typically, with youth investment, we've done that the last 2 times. I've been able to have the coordinators work side by side. It's important because the current coordinator, Mark, has built those relationships with all the schools in Lake County and also the youth that he's been working with. So there can be some kind of transition, some good solid transition. Is 60 days too much to ask for a transition? I can't put a number of days on for the transition because we may feel comfortable moving forward, but it's the youth, the kids we work with and the administrators in the schools that we work with. So to help fund that for two months, for 60 days, I think the cost was $12,641.
$71, yeah, 12,671.
Okay. I've worked with the treasurer. Some of that will be absorbed within my budget, my materials and services. And
So we'd like to do the same thing that we just talked about with the fingerprint equipment in the jail. As the budget year progresses, we'll see where available funds can come from. I think Jake might have dollars in materials and services that we can, by resolution, transfer to that salary portion. We might also look at the commissioner budget. This is kind of a dual, dual process here in that commissioner budget too. So between those 2 budgets, we'll see what's available to use on this position.
I'm very supportive of that transition. Transition is critical, especially as you mentioned. Transition is critical, especially for the kids.
I don't disagree, and I don't think Mr. Albertson, who's in the back of the room, would disagree either. He was fortunate to have a little bit of transition, but his transition occurred during the summertime. So there was a little bit of transition, but prior to that, it was huge because we had a youth investment coordinator who been there for 18 years. Had those relationships going.
I don't disagree with the transition at all. It's the cost, making sure that we're able to afford the cost.
I think we'll be able to afford it, absorbing it within my juvenile budget, and then I'm looking with the treasurer on.
When we come up with a sheriff, Kenny already mentioned, we're gonna have a windfall of electricity money.
We need those fees here on December 5th.
So you're wanting a motion to accept the financial obligation. And that financial obligation, the impact, that's the total impact, is the 12,671, but with the deficiencies within your own budget and looking at other budgets,
Absolutely.
we'll know more as we get close to the end of the year,
Into
end of the fiscal year,
Yes, sir.
not the calendar year, where this impact could be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the impact will not be 12,600, whatever, or 800.
That's showing the total cost.
That's the total cost,
Total
that's not the impact. The impact on the general fund will be, in my hope is significantly less than that.
Well, it's gonna be that impact no matter what, it's just where the money comes from.
Well, it's true, but out of my budget, and
Yeah.
I'm talking contingency right now.
Entertain a motion.
Move that we accept the fiscal impact of $12,671 for the transition. As was,
I'll second the motion. And any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, next item, we're done with you? Aye. All right, thank you. Next item is paint take back program. And the manager of our landfill, which is a general fund operation, is Kevin Hawk. He works in the capacity as a general funded position on this. Is not able to be with us today. And Melanie, you've been briefed on this, I believe. Do you have anything you'd like to?
So you know how they have paint take back events? It's the same company that he's been working with. This just facilitates the option to take paint back at any time. There's some cost to the people taking the paint back, as there would be during the event that he holds once a year in different locations. It's just a service to the public that they can do, so they don't have to store the paint for an entire year before doing a paint take back event.
We just recently took over the operations of the landfill, and this, as Melanie says, will give the opportunity, instead of once or twice a year, being able to have the public come in and bring their paint in. This, anytime they go to the landfill, they'll be able to take the paint there now. And this agreement would be between Lake County and Paint Care, just up in the efficiency and the quality of the landfill to be able to give service to our citizens.
Yeah.
So,
We won't fiscally gain from this as a county.
right.
The citizens will, and convenience.
Okay. So, and I'm sure legal counsel reviewed this
Yep.
on and on, all the normal questions we ask.
This will take the document.
You want to make a motion, sure, you don't need to.
No, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the agreement between Lake County and Paint Care Incorporated as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, motion carries. Looks like the next four things is Ms. Buzzini. Your first one is HRTG grant renewal.
Yep. So this is just a renewal of the grant that we've had with the Department of Veterans Affairs in the past. It's for $45,000. It provides rides for veterans to medical transportation appointments, or provides, excuse me, I'm all flustered, I don't know why. Provides $45,000 for transportation for veterans to medical appointments. We
Okay.
are the fiscally responsible party, qualified entity, and then Lake County Senior Citizens Association provides the service.
So these dollars pass through the county, go through the RFP process, people qualify and are implemented and put on the ground, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll move to accept the HRT grant renewal as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Looks like we're going to move on to the Canon Image Runner Advanced C5531I2.
Yeah, as you guys know, I'm trying to streamline our services. I have all of our printers on one EP now, which has been great. It costs less for time with other departments and processing them. In addition to that savings, this will save the county $320 a year, as opposed to our current.
So I will move to accept the Canon Image Runner Advanced C5535I2 as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? Melanie, thank you for working on getting the county the most efficient way we can. These, as over the years on printers, it comes and it goes from one vendor to the next, inefficiencies. Stay on top of it, like you are. Appreciate it very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
So,
What was that number again? That Canon?
C5535I2. Roman numeral 2.
If that has any meaning to you.
Good job, Bill.
Okay, so next we have Melanie, once again, resolution establishing a government's protocol for the Central Oregon Policing Strategy. And I don't believe this is an action item, or is this an action item?
Yeah, I would like consensus at least to adopt this. This just formalizes the board. At a later date, we will come together and nominate someone from the county and an outside entity to represent Lake County. But right now, we're just getting the makeup of the board finalized.
And you,
Okay,
for
so
the audience, can you describe what this function?
Yeah, so this is kind of looking at public land use as a bunch of counties. It will be it's in Central Oregon with 5 counties: Crook, Deschutes, Jefferson, Lake, and Klamath. And it's looking at the greater aspect of land use and how to best manage that as a group.
Good job. Right off the top of your head without having to read there. So I'll make a motion to accept the governance protocol for the COCSI, it's cohesive on and on.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor,
Yeah,
say aye. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at this. Implement the National Wildfire Cohesive Strategy. So it's not just land use period, it's fire related?
Yeah. No, sorry, yeah, it
Primary
is for
purpose.
fire, just to have good management strategies and kind of have everyone on the same page, followed in the same direction.
I had to clarify that because I heard you say earlier the land use.
Well, you know,
I can. But it's basically a National Wildfire Cohesive Strategy, making sure everybody's on the same page in
Yeah.
implementation of that.
I believe, and we can go ahead and accept it, but there's some, I believe, some scrivener's errors on page 2. It says, whereas Deschutes County.
they will be the administrator.
And then it says, resolve the Board of County Commissioners of Deschutes County as follows. So is that verbiage correct?
Yeah, they're taking, from my understanding, they are taking the lead on the administration. They're facilitating most of that work. And then we will provide a county official to represent us, and then a non-county person.
Okay,
So we, two
so
people.
that verbiage is correct.
2 people from Lake County.
All right. Any further discussion?
Do you know who in Deschutes County would be the lead person yet?
I don't think that's been established yet, from what I understand. No one's been,
Let's establish and then,
this is establishing the position, and then they will
Yeah.
set up a
I
person.
was just thinking, an old friend of mine, Joe Stutler, is the county forester for that area.
I recommend it.
Yeah. Okay.
you're good?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The next thing I have here, Melanie, is the initiative steering committee.
That was just what we went over. You skipped my TAM plan.
I did.
I
Okay,
think.
I apologize.
No, it's,
I'm tired of putting up with Ken Cooper and I'm trying to get out of here.
oh no, sorry, Red, that's just 2 lines. The agreement we went over is wordy for that resolution.
Okay.
So I have my TAM plan, the
Yep.
FTA.
Let's go back to that.
Okay, the FTA is requiring a transit asset management plan. ODOT was gracious enough to provide one that will encompass all qualified entities. So,
Oh,
yes.
saved you some work.
Yeah, it's saving lots of work. So there's a handy dandy little scale that you can grade your assets on. We have 6 vehicles in 1 bus barn. And we've got everything entered in and we're set. We just need to adopt this TAM plan that I sent to you guys not too long ago. And then there's a cover sheet.
You know how we glaze over on special transportation? I'm ready for action if the other commissioner is.
I don't know, we can discuss this for another 45 minutes.
Sure. It's pretty. No, but I'm
Yeah.
very grateful that they provided this service to
Yes.
us because
I'm
it would be
good.
daunting otherwise.
Yeah, and meets our objective.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept the resolution to adopt the group transit assist management plan and performance measures by the Lake County Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Sorry to skip over that, Melanie.
No, it's fine.
We have Title VI amendment now.
Yeah. And I have a letter somewhere from Carol Cunningham. Can you give me the so you guys adopted my Title VI plan a month and a half ago, but I had to make a few adjustments. One of the adjustments was that I put a Spanish version on the internet for civil rights complaints. So I put that on the website, and then I put a function on there to translate any information that might not be understood on our website. I'm not sure where the letter is. I don't have it in there. I might not have gotten that to you, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what does the motion need to be?
To accept the changes, I had to put a Spanish version on the website, and I had to,
So I'll move to approve the Title VI amendment as Melanie stated.
Basically adding the Spanish version.
yeah. And then I put a function on there, a link that goes directly to Google Translate, where if you speak a different language, you can copy whatever you don't understand and plug it into Google Translate, and it will.
That includes Japanese.
Every language you can.
You said it too soon. I was going to say we needed that 12 years ago. And I think Ken appreciates what I'm saying.
Well,
I made a motion, sir.
I'll second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Now your discussion.
No discussion.
No, this, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I still don't fully understand Arcanese. Minutes, September 19th.
You have a copy of that now?
I probably do. No, that's wrong. That's sort of funny. I ended up with March 21st, 2012. That must be for this afternoon's meeting.
Yes, it is.
I did not bring my copy. We can do that this afternoon if you need to review them.
But it's just one.
Just the ones that, yes.
Yeah, that was from our joint, our combined session last night.
Are you going to be back at 1 o'clock, sir?
I am.
Okay. So, are you comfortable with it? Move to approve the minutes of September 19th, 2018. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do you have anything else for us, Ken Cooper? Thank you for saying no.
Nope.
No.
I do, but,
You do? Go right ahead.
well, this is just a,
Department update?
yeah, kinda sorta. So, at some point, we're gonna have to, deal with this Kroger, place out. I forget his first name, Mr. Kroger.
Kogar?
Kroger, Kogar, thank you.
You're talking about the RV park? area?
Correct, I just,
Deal with it in what way?
well, I'm under the impression, and I have the paperwork, so I know the answer to this question, but it was, that whole place out there was to be a temporary use deal, and then it was supposed to go away.
And those in the town.
now that it's been annexed and what was allowed to stay was town decision, I would assume.
Okay. So that's where it sits now?
If it's all annexed in, that was part of it, and so it is under town jurisdiction as far as, I know the roads are taken into their system, those are actually city roads within that complex.
Right.
As far as,
But where it's gonna sit with us and the building side of this is electrical, plumbing, and
absolutely, and so I would encourage you to talk with the town and find out what,
I have, and when they say a deer caught in the headlight is an understatement.
okay. So,
But-
so what do you see being, it can be of value to the community if that was brought up and brought back into a standard, if the landowner wanted to do that.
Absolutely.
And so there's value for the cost of all that infrastructure, everything that's been put in. I don't know what's been removed or not. So there's that potential value, but whatever the town's agreement is with that landowner of what can stay or can't stay is between them. If he's going to use it, it has to be brought up to code by your world, correct?
Correct.
And so our play in it is if he goes to use it, as he gets permits and inspections, that's where we come in, unless I'm not fully understanding.
No, that's correct. I'm just, since I'm coming in on this, on the latter part of it, you know, things like depth of wires, you know, was everything code, put into code at the time? Was it just put in as a temporary? That's what my logic is, if it was put in as a temporary, many things are probably put in quick, with the assumption it was coming out.
There are some concerns on the electrical.
So I am not, I just want to relay my concerns.
So there should have been inspections and everything, that should have been laid out in that permit whenever that was done. So you should know the depth that it was buried, if there was any variance from the depth on the temporary status by looking at the permit.
Right, from what I can see or what I can find, not so much. So this is just an FYI out there.
Okay.
Because when this does come all around and comes to light,
Do you think it's
it'll be a
material?
concern.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I will, depending on when someone wants to ramp this up and which I'm assuming Red Rock will probably want to do. This is kind of a heads up, what's I'm sure is going to come down the pipe. Sure. And so I will, the more information I obtain, the more I'll come and give an update on.
Just a question, let's say the landowner comes forward and wants to re-energize this, no pun intended.
Right.
Would it be as simple as daylighting some of the burial out there for you to
Could
be able
be.
to go in there and say, yes, this is where it's at? Or could it be as simple as if it was a temporary permit and at this depth that another temporary permit's issued for the short term for this?
It could if we're all on the same page and nothing becomes a fire life safety issue.
Yeah. So
Bottom line is that's what I'm basing it off of.
great heads up.
Have you spoken with Pacific Power?
I have not. I've spoken with the owner of the property out there and some of the things he was wanting to do.
The reason I asked, that's been a discussion between me and Todd Andrews for off and on for a while.
Right.
Of course, Pacific Power only concerned about to the meter.
Correct.
Everything out there, but they have a understanding of what's out there.
That's correct.
They might be able to give you some added info.
And I've gone down that avenue and there's quite a bit to I've already dotted my I's, crossed my T's, and I know a lot of the answers to any question I'll bring up. But I just want everyone to be on the same page because it will become an issue. I already know it.
Well,
they're going to look for places. There's no other place for when they decide to ramp up. where these people are gonna stay.
Well, with the potential of the ramping up, the potential of that, within the fire life safety and all that, we're here to help people get through the process. So if the landowner can bring it to code of whatever it is today, then that.
Well, to code, but like I said, there, you know, I have papers, you know, establishing all of this as a temporary usage. And, you know, it was supposed to come out as soon as Ruby left. It was all supposed to go away. That's fine. I mean, even if we find out that it's not kosher underground, because there's so many transformers and they just loop all over that place. Well, if this gentleman decides to turn it into an RV place, partial RV place, and does some landscaping, you know, these wires are 18 inches or less, you know, and they start drilling for trees and so on and so forth. It's not going to be, wouldn't be good.
The other thing is, and you have the previous permit, if it was a temporary permit, then they'd have to go through the whole process of getting another permit.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's some other things that have come to light, you know, this system's 208, 240's code now for any manufacturing
Yeah. Well,
part, so everything would have to be, yeah.
Yeah, the possible unfortunate thing for the landowner is that he or she did not take and do due diligence and go ahead and get that over to a permanent setup and today's codes and everything of what today's codes are.
Right.
Okay. So
I'm just, yeah, as long as everyone's on, because the Red Rock right now, and they're, you know, pushing their, which we all do, would come to light as far as permitting and plans and.
well, maybe it's an opportunity for Red Rock and the landowner to do something jointly to bring it to today's standards and make it usable.
Yep,
So,
I'm down with that. Yeah, as long as I can, as long as I'm giving that information, everyone's got in my back, that's it. Yeah.
Be watched for it come to you at the last minute, because usually they come a minute.
Well, that's what's gonna happen. That's why I'm
Yep.
saying this up front, because that's exactly what's gonna happen. Like I said, as long as, you know, someone's got my back on the
Yes.
whole fire life safety issue, because that's what it all comes down
Well,
to.
we need to notify Red Rock.
well, that's why
Already.
I believe you've already talked with.
Yeah, we've been in talks, but, you know, it goes back and forth, but some of these, gentlemen,
They wanted it
seem to think they're a
yesterday.
little bit above the stuff, and so.
Send them our way, we'll talk.
No, come on, you know me better than that. I love, you know, I don't mind. I don't mind it, I just wanna make sure you guys know, so that's just bring it to light.
That's a great update. Where I've approached a little bit of discussion, and I tried to get Red Rock and others to engage earlier than this, is these are the potential properties out here.
Yeah,
You need to find out what needs to be done. Don't wait till the last minute.
exactly.
We've all talked to head of the game, economic development, ourselves, you. And so if it comes down and they want it done within 2 weeks, it's like, sorry, but
Yeah, if
we have these rules and standards we go by.
yep, and if there's another meeting with them, you know, over the phone again, that would be great. You know, as long as all the players are on board, you know, because that way they can trickle down to the people that are here now running whatever.
And so most all the players at the town have changed since the Ruby days.
Correct.
So then institutional knowledge of what went on is pretty much gone. But Ray Sims, which was the town manager, I believe, might have some of that knowledge, which is no longer employed there, but he might have some of the historical knowledge of why they allowed it to stay.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's,
Or is it all on the county, we allowed it to stay, I don't know, it was a temporary permit.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, trying to, what's her name, Roberta?
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, so on, yeah, that's.
Okay, if there's anybody you need me to get a hold of, I'm willing to try to pull those meetings together.
Okay, but I just wanted to put it out there, and And I'm doing, like I said, by the time this all rolls around and the day of, I've already got the paperwork already in a folder, so
Okay.
I just gotta hand it to them, smile,
Yes. Well,
we'll take the money.
I personally myself would love to see at least a portion of that preserved and brought up to the right standard for just exactly.
No, you're absolutely right that if it's being utilized, then it's not just sitting out there empty, so utilize it.
Yeah, and so the question probably is also to the town is, on their planning process, is that an allowed use of that property, or was that just a temporary, and under land use, does it still qualify?
I will get you a copy of what, because I have all that.
You already checked into it.
I'll have all their agreements, their contracts, everything that's written up.
Well, let's see how we can help facilitate, if that's really gonna be used, how we can help them get ahead of the
Right.
ball game instead of behind.
Right.
So we always try to promote private sector first, you know, they're aware of
Right.
county areas also, but
Yeah, there's a few things, I don't know if county council needs it, when it comes to light, if we have to write something up, for the city, because city had already something written up of the agreement, what was supposed to happen later on, and so.
all right.
Are you impressed across Roberta, the county that was used for a man camp and electricity and plumbing and all that also?
Yeah, I'm not totally familiar. The place we were at was basically across from the baseball fields.
Yeah.
And
East of
Mr. Kodar, or whatever, he was actually wanting to try to utilize so many spaces. I'm assuming probably someone from Red Rock, said, hey, we're gonna have, 100 guys come down to, do some.
Yeah. During the Ruby days, they complemented each other. That was private owned, the county, we still own what's called the man camp. That was where they had basically dormitory type places, and it wasn't set up for individual RVs.
Right.
But all that infrastructure, all that water and everything's still in there.
Right.
What it would take to reestablish it and what was permitted and the way it was done would be, we might ought to look at that. I haven't had anybody come to me and say they would like to utilize that at this time, but that's it.
Can I add to the discussion?
Sure.
A curveball. So the 100th year anniversary of the Roundup and Fairs coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Jessica was discussing glamping and like having people come in and be able to stay there as an option.
On the county park?
Well,
Or
just
Either.
Either. So if one of us could bring that up to code, I think that would help.
Well, it's almost like two different things.
Yeah.
It
Well,
would be,
yeah.
it would have to be dry camping on the county side, and we've talked about over the years of overflow been on my fair board hat.
Yeah. Sorry.
Overflow and that being a potential for a short term, but the county's property does not have hookups for power, water, and sewer. We don't even have that at the fairgrounds itself. But it is something that could possibly be used for overflow. But I honestly don't see the investment into RV beds on the county property for sort of a one weekend use.
Yeah.
It'd be quite expensive.
Yeah, because Ronnie was on the board. Ronnie's name's mentioned in the paperwork, so she was part of the city council or what?
Probably was the county planning commission.
That's what it was, yeah.
Because as urban growth boundary, the
That's
land
what it
use
was.
went through the planning
I'm sorry,
commission
yep.
for approval.
Yep.
Then once it's annexed in, now it goes over to the.
Right. No, she was in there and we've had discussions, so.
But to me, it's two different things. Kodar,
It is.
he needs to come.
Yeah.
For the county, the reason I brought that up, and as mentioned, it's not set up for RV and all that. But if you just get acquainted with what's there, so if somebody proposes some use, at least we know a starting point.
Okay.
And all these sites were brought up during you said in the Red Rock meeting when we was talking about cultural sites, and if you remember right, that was brought up of be sure and get out and find out which sites are, not cultural sites, which sites are available for overflow.
Right.
So, we need to get back. It's sort of unique with Red Rock, you have their contract that's doing the, wood construction, doing the construction side, that will be the influx of workers coming in. You have Red Rock employs herself, you have IR1 group over here, so it's, they have to talk amongst each other also.
Well, Melanie is correct with the, with this being a two separate issue deal, this, we all have to start thinking about the next year. This 19 is gonna be, it's gonna be a big one, and there's gonna be a lot of people.
Yep.
Period. Now, it might not be a lot of people, January,
There's gonna be in phases, on their construction phase, they're.
Right, but if this 100-year anniversary is gonna, that's gonna be about it's gonna be pretty close. I mean, that's gonna be, if we were all thinking Red Rock stuff, this didn't even come to light to me till I heard it was radio. And then I went, wow, because we'd already discussed how many people are gonna be coming in to Red Rock.
How awesome is it to have a 100-year anniversary and have an extra 300 people here that get to participate in our 100th year anniversary?
Absolutely, absolutely, but you still gotta pre-plan on some things, and Melanie's she's absolutely right. This is, there's gonna be an influx coming in. And about where it says, just in my portion of the construction end, it's all, I can see it, all developing at the same time.
So this-
You're right, Brad, it's gonna be an awesome,
There
an
really
awesome
should
experience.
be-
You'll probably have more people at the fairgrounds.
It's a great opportunity for the private sector to look at expanding and having
Yep.
more spots,
Yep.
along with
Yep.
non-private sector.
So with your
short term.
So with your fair board hat on, that's more things to bring up, the fair board meeting with Ron.
All we have to do is have the money to put in more RV spaces, my friend, we have it planned.
Nice.
The permit fees are just cost us so much we can't afford to do it.
Oh, you guys are getting a deal. Besides, that's on the record about it.
Well, I had my septic tank changed out yesterday. That's why I dug it all with my grandson's little shovel.
Right on.
But I made other conduits so I can have 15 campers on my property, all feed into a one household septic tank.
Nice.
Only be for a short period of time.
Nice, you're gonna have it pumped every week.
And he went through the land use and all the things, it's all approved.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it only cost me $265.
That's it?
Are you in the city out there?
No, I'm urban.
You're just across the street from the city?
No,
No, you're,
everything out there is urban.
all that's urban? It's just the water that ended up being.
Well, got
Remember,
city
you gotta
water.
pay for the dust, the cultural, what are those bird, blue jays, and
Yeah,
all the,
jays.
you gotta do all those studies,
Okay.
which you probably didn't do.
And the fence lizards.
So we have a big meeting at 1. We're going to try to recess this.
Yeah, hot day.
These conversations can carry on amongst individuals. You made us aware of potential things out there. So appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And
I would just say get acquainted with the county property, if you probably already, just in case they propose it, at least we have a starting point.
I do, that is something I would like to know, is just, I'm not sure where, all the properties are county.
we'll hop in the rig and we'll go out there and I can show you what I remember and what's there. Dave manages our those county properties. So he'll be back to work end of this week, next week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm glad they take you out
Yep, that's perfect.
there. There's a big hole.
Good job, Mel, way to go.
All right,
Well-
so
And then, oh, sorry, are we
Okay.
recessed?
until 1.